Ars Longa Vita Brevis by The Nice. Before Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Keith Emerson was a member of The Nice. By the time they recorded this album in 1968, they were mostly performing as a keyboard, bass and drum trio, rather like ELP. The problem was that they did not have a good enough lead singer. The bass player Lee Jackson does most of the singing, though Emerson himself even sings on a couple of tracks, but neither came close to being in the same class as someone like Greg Lake. To me, The Nice were much more interesting, groundbreaking, and even more anarchic than ELP. They released a single of America from West Side Story. It starts with parts of Dvorak's New World Symphony. Then they played a speedy version of the main theme, and then they did variations of it over a typical rock structure. Then they soloed over it, with the soloing reaching peaks of sonic chaos, with feedback and the banging of the organ against the floor. Then they returned to an even more triumphant version of the theme and a poem. They once burnt an American flag during a performance, which really upset the Americans. It has the sound of protest, yet it is purely instrumental. This structure is one they tended to repeat, using other classical themes to head and tail excursions into psychedelic noise, blues rock Hammond organ soloing, or extended jazz piano improvisations. On this album they follow the same template for their version of the Coralia Suite by Sibelius on side 1. A tune that was made familiar by being used as the theme to a current affairs programme. This was The Nice's second LP. Side 1 also has a couple of novelty songs and some prog rock. Side 2 is supposedly a side-long suite, and as such is quite groundbreaking. It starts off like a piece of 20th century classical music in the vein of Gershwin's American in Paris. We then get a drum solo. Some of it is rock music, which is probably quite heavy for the time, and some of it is piano improvisation. But the standout movement is their version of Bach's Brandenburg Concerto. It is performed with an orchestra, but it still follows their template for adapting classics. This was used as a theme to a TV art show. The Nice went on to do an even more epic suite with an orchestra, and even noisier cover versions of classical and rock tunes. They probably went as far as they could, but Emerson needed Greg Lake and Carl Palmer to truly go over the top. Ars Longa Vita Brevis, which I think is not real Latin but schoolboy Latin, meaning life is short but art is long. Ars Longa Vita Brevis by The Nice.